So good morning, everybody, and I would like to welcome us to this morning session of our conversation with an alum. This morning we have with us our alum and IVLP alum Babatunde Olawunwo, the general manager of Splash FM Ibadan. Also, I have with me this morning my colleague Shekaina Olagunju, who will be coordinating the program with me. Hi, Shekaina.
Hello, hi everyone.
Yeah, so I'll take the bio. Thereafter, Mr. Olawuwo will drop few lines. Then Shekaina will take it over before we turn it over to the audience for their questions. So I read Mr. Olawuwo's bio. Tunde Olawuwo is a broadcast journalist and media leader. Professionally, he has worked in the broadcast media for 18 years with cognate experiences in program planning and design, presentation, production, news reportage, advertising, and general training. Tunde holds a higher national diploma in mass communication from the Polytechnic Ibadan, Bachelor of Social Sciences in Political Science from the University of Ibadan, and postgraduate diploma in theater arts from the same university. He is currently pursuing his master's degree in political science, international relations major. He is an alumnus of the US sponsored International Visitors Leadership Program, popularly known as IVLP, one of 10 African journalists selected. He is a widely traveled journalist with keen interest on Africa Renaissance and future of emerging powers. Currently, Tunde Olawiwo is the general manager for Splash 105.5 FM and Lagelu 96.7 FM radios based in Ibadan. This morning, we will be speaking on the topic how media can deepen democracy, reflections from my IVLP experience. Please let's give him a warm welcome with a round of applause. So, Mr. Olawo, do you have something to say before we go into the question from Shekaina? Over to you, sir.
All right, good morning. I hope you can hear me.
Clearly.
Yes. Okay, good morning. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and extend my greetings to everybody here. Let me say Ekaro. That's my Yoruba language way of saying good morning. Thank you for this opportunity. The US mission in Nigeria, the American Spaces Nigeria, and I'm excited to see that we have a pan-Nigerian participant this morning, from Sokoto to Yola to Akwa Ibom to Osogbo and different places. I feel so honored to be invited this morning to be able to share some of my insights as an alumnus of IVLP program 2023. It was specifically the Edward R. Moore Program for Journalists, 21st Century Approaches for Print and Radio Journalists. And as was read in my brief bio there, it was 10 of us that were picked from different countries of Africa to be a part of that from the 22nd of April to the 13th of May 2023. And it afforded us a great opportunity to compare notes, learn, relearn and, of course, acquire more knowledge as to how the media should be the leading light when it comes to shaping conversations about Africa and the global space that we occupy in. As we know that at this point in time, democracies across the world are being tested, not only by political tensions or economic, something fundamental, and that is the quality of information that is available to the citizens. And democracy at its core depends on participation, and participation depends on understanding. And this is where the media comes in. The citizens cannot meaningfully engage governments if they are not informed, or they are misinformed or disconnected from the processes that shape our lives. So what we make our business is to bridge this gap, set agenda, and ensure that the society is better informed. And I would be so happy during the course of this conversation to be able to share a few things I know and that we have done over the last few years. Thank you.
Over to you, Shekinah.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Hello? Okay, wonderful. It's my turn to say a car or two. Thank you so much, Mr. Babatunde, for joining us today. It's exciting to have everyone here. We're going to have a conversation on our topic of how media can deepen democracy, just get some insights from his IVLP experience and even his post experience of him back at the station as general manager and how he's using all of those insights. So I think let's just dive right into it. Mr. Babatunde, from your bio, you seem like you've spent nearly 2 decades in broadcast media in Nigeria. So from your perspective, in what ways do radio and even just media in general shape democratic participation in Nigeria?
I didn't get the last thing you said. I'm sorry.
Okay, can you hear me?
Okay, yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, so I was asking, from your experience, you spent almost 2 decades in working in media. In what ways do you
Yes.
believe radio and even just media in general can shape democratic participation in Nigeria?
Oh, thank you very much for that. I believe strongly that the media is not merely an observer of democracy, but it's actually one of its essential pillars. Because democracy is about the people, and it's about their capacity to understand what is going on around them and for them to be able to participate. Now, to speak specifically about where I belong in broadcasting, because broadcasting is broad, but in the last, it's now 19 years, I've been on radio as a presenter, as a producer, as a news reporter, as a news editor. I still do all of those, even though right now I focus more on managing and leading. One of the things I found out is that radio, to be specific and broadly speaking, the media, is the bridge between the people and the society. And as far as radio is concerned, so let me bring it up. We're based in Ibadan here. I mean, one of the most populous cities that you have in Nigeria. Without any form of equivocation, I can tell you that radio is the closest platform to the people, because it's perhaps the only platform that you can have access to and be able to engage with while doing other things. So it's very accessible. People carry radio on their phones, in their cars, at the fuel station. Wherever you go, you just find an element of radio there. And it's very affordable compared to all other platforms. So we have been able to take advantage of this by ensuring that we engage with the people by educating them. So When Splash FM, for instance, started in 2007, it was a station devoted to 2008. We did a research within the city to ask people what they wanted, and a majority of them said they wanted a station that will inform them. And immediately we changed course. We became a talk radio. We became a talk radio committed to information, education, and enlightenment. And since then, it has been our core. So when in 2008, we station, which is what we are called to date, it was a statement of vision redefined. And over time, we have seen, because at that point, we were the first private independent radio station in Ibadan. But interestingly, today we have about 56 right now. One of the things we have been able to do is to give the people the voice that they so lacked in the past. We've made sure that, look, you can't just be an observer. And democracy is not just about campaigns and elections. What happens after people get elected? You have to continually engage them, interact meaningfully, ask the right questions. And that is what our platform has been. Of course, at some point, we had instances where it appeared as though the station was being antagonistic, but for us, we know that it was to be expected. The moment you are independent, you are perceived as being non-aligned and sometimes combative in what you do. But it gladdened my heart in 2023 when I had the opportunity of being part of the IVLP program for journalists, because do you know, when you operate in a particular way, I mean, traveling is one of the greatest forms of education that anybody can have, especially one that is curated in a way that broadens what you do. I realized that Nigeria sort of took its brand of democracy from the US. We both practice presidential system of government. So it was a great opportunity for me, alongside 9 other journalists, to learn in real time and being on ground how the media in the US over the years, I mean, practicing democracy for almost 300 years now, has continued to engage with the government. So it helped me to understand better that some of the challenges that we have here are not even peculiar to us. So when you ask questions, there's a possibility. Let me quickly give an example. There was a time that in 2014, there was this Freedom of Information Act that came into existence in Nigeria, which allowed journalists to, or any other person who is interested, to request for information about government spending and government activities. So in 2015, we decided to put it to test. There was a conference that was organized by the Speaker of the Oyo State House of Assembly then for wives of legislators. And the conference was in the UK. So we became a bit worried that, okay, wives of legislators conference, on whose bill was it done? Because we considered that that would be a wasteful use of public resources if it was government money, because it could have been done here in Nigeria. So we made an FOI request to the assembly that wanted to know how much it costs and if it was government fund. Of course, they came back to us that they didn't have to reveal that information. And then we went to court, we sued them. This dragged on for months. But eventually, after about 7 months of back and forth, which also meant that our relationship was not very good with them, the court ruled that they must provide that information. And when we got the information, it was clear that it was taken from their budget, the House of Assembly budget. So we put it out to the people, and it shaped the kind of conversation going on for about 3 months that eventually they had to apologize. What we pushed for was the removal of the speaker, but of course that didn't happen. But we're happy that at least we're able to throw up a conversation that informed people about how their funds were being spent, just to give you an example.
Thank you so much, Mr. Babatunde. That was a really good example of how your station's reporting and your work are really influencing public discourse and actions. Like I love what you said about it's more than just being an observer. Really, it's being very involved in whatever you're doing. And I also wanted to point out because you mentioned when being an independent radio station, they might be perceived as being antagonistic. So I thought that was interesting. So I wanted to ask, how do you are you struggling to hear me still? Can you hear me? Everyone else? Hello? Hello? Please, if you can hear me, can you wave?
Yes, I can hear you. Can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, good. Mr. Babatunde, can you hear me? Oh, I think his network. Give me 1 second.
Can you see me now? Am I back now?
Welcome back, Mr. Babatunde. Sorry, we're having technical issues. I can hear you. Can you hear me now? Hello? Are you able to hear me
Yes,
now?
I can hear you.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, yes.
Welcome back. So I was just commenting on what you said, because from your story that you shared about how the actions of your station really influencing public discourse in Ibadan, but also you spoke about being an independent radio station, managing 3 independent radio stations. You talked about how you might be perceived as being antagonistic. I wanted to just talk a bit about that. How do you balance commercial pressures? Of course, you're a general manager, is in the business of making money for the station. How do you balance commercial pressures but still be independent and holding that responsibility to uphold democratic values, free speech, and also public interest journalism? How do you balance those two?
Oh, thank you very much. This is a very, do I say, complex question, because I can relate with it in terms of balancing my role as a journalist, managing a radio station that is committed to deepening democratic conversation, transparency, and accountability. At the same time, ensuring that we stay as a viable business organization, because if you are not able to meet your needs, your recurrent, the wage bill, the general cost of running the station, it really can put you in a difficult position. I would say that it has been an awesome experience. Let me put it that way. By the way, I have been the general manager for 8 years right now, so I can tell you that it's not been a very straightforward experience. To put it this way, on the scale of which one outweighs the other, certainly our role as a watchdog to those in government and society in general definitely tilt heavily, because primarily that is what we are established to do. We see our existence as a part between the people and the government. And I say this all the time, what we are selling to the people is trust. The information that we provide, they can almost get it anywhere. I mean, the world has become, the information space has become democratized now. Nobody has monopoly of information. So if they are going to continue to prefer a brand, then they must trust us. So that is non-negotiable. It's primary. However, in terms of the business aspect of it, and this is also one of the interesting things I found out, because during our visit to the US, we were able to interact with different media organizations, print, electronic, television, radio. Now, some of them publicly owned, some of them privately owned, so we're able to compare notes as to how these things work. In the US, for instance, in one of my conversations with the manager of NPR, which is a publicly owned radio in the US, one of the things they have there is a system through which the public, the general public, can fund the station through voluntary donations. I can tell you for a fact that we don't have anything like that here. There is no station in Nigeria that is funded that way. You're either a government station that gets subvention on a monthly basis, or a private station like ours that depends heavily on advertising. So our primary source of revenue is advertisement. But the good thing for us is that advertisers look to cash in on the audience that you have. And without sounding immodest, we have been the most listened to radio station in Ibadan for the past 19 years.
Well, I think that deserves an applause from across the room. I think very impressive.
Thank you. Because there's a way to measure listenership. So today, Splash FM has an audience size, as of the last time the survey was done, which was December 2025, Splash FM has an audience size of 3.5 million plus. Now, that speaks only to terrestrial audience. It does not even take into account those who listen online through the app or who stream on Facebook, YouTube, and other platforms. So this puts us in a very good position with advertisers. The station is well subscribed. So that puts us in a healthy financial state. Now, that is not to say that we don't also have some challenges. I'll give another example. In 2017, something happened in Oyo State. The wife of the governor at that point in time was reported to have been briefly arrested and detained in a Western country on accusations of money laundering. Now, we got to know about it and we reported it. Of course, that put us in a very awkward position with the governor and the government of the day. And of course, their reaction was that the governor directed that no agency of government should do business with us until we come around to apologize. So I spoke to the owner of the station that, so what do? We have been blacklisted from getting any business from them. And he said, no, we're not going to apologize because we did no wrong. If they're not going to do business with us, let them keep their money. Now, I felt a bit awkward about it because I knew the size of what government patronage meant to us. And you know, when you get at the subnational level, let me just put it at the subnational level, governors exercise more powers than even the president, because the level of scrutiny at the subnational level is not as deep and broad as what you have at the national level, where you have a lot of international media interests, civil society organizations. At the subnational, the governor is almost like an emperor. If he's not doing business with you, a lot of their allies will also not do business with you. But we weathered through that period. It lasted for 2 years, 2017 to 2019. It was towards the 2019 election that they came back to us and they reopened their business relationship with us. It was tough, but we survived it. So we understand this to be part of what you have to experience if you truly want to live up to the name of being independent. So it's not been very straightforward, but somehow positive footing with the audience and the advert agencies have put us in a state that makes us sustainable, with or without government.
Wow, thank you so much for that story. Weathering 2 years without that kind of funding, I can't imagine how difficult that is, but it definitely speaks to the amount of bravery you need to be working in the media and just holding up those democratic values. That's so important. But I want to also speak to the business aspect that we mentioned before. So can you just walk us through how your stations report on business, investment, and trade to deepen, because it's really about information, to deepen public understanding and encourage democratic participation, and also to support sustainable prosperity in Nigeria, because of course you need to have a strong democracy. You also have to speak about business, on the business side of things. How do your stations report on that?
Okay, thank you also for that. So, as far as we're concerned, given that our primary audience is made up of diverse people, but in terms of the size, I would say more of local people, because Ibadan, even though is a big and a densely populated place, in terms of demography, we also tend to have more of local people. So yes, on Splash FM, we have 2 programs that run daily dedicated to business. There's one where we strictly do business news, where we report from the capital market and the stock exchange floor. Our updates on Forex, how it's changing, decisions by the Monetary Policy Committee of the CBN. We are also very mindful of the fact that the local people you feel you are speaking over their head if that is all you're doing. So we are very, very local in terms of what we also dish out. So we have some programs, for instance, that are done in indigenous language. It's called Ojuoja, that is from the market. And the focus there mostly is to regularly update. In fact, that program is done from the marketplace. It's usually recorded from the market. So we focus on the price of commodities like fish, like meat, groceries, simple things that affect their daily lives. Okay, this period is fasting period for the Muslims. We have dedicated this period to the kind of things that Muslims need at this point in time, fruit and other things that they need to stay healthy, where they can get it at affordable prices, because you really need to be inclusive in your content. So we are balanced in terms of how we dish it out. There are people in the universities, the upwardly mobile people who are interested in huge economic metrics. We cater to them, and we also cater to the local people who just want to know what the price of a cup of rice in the market is today. And good enough, we run a partnership with the BBC. In fact, we were the second station in Nigeria to being a partner to the BBC since 2010. So they also send a program, Wall Street, to us from the Wall Street that we air every day. So it's an awesome package when it comes to business reporting for us.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Babatunde. So I was going to say, I loved how you mentioned localizing content so that it's more accessible to people, because for people to be able to understand what information you're sharing, to be able to apply that, they need to understand and relate to it. So I like that answer you gave. So let's switch over to your IVLP experience. But before we do that, I do want to also remind everyone, please, if you have any questions, do drop this in the chat. I know we have one question there already. We'll take that soon. So we just want to talk a bit more about your IVLP experience so we can learn from you. So since you returned from your experience, it was back in 2023, I believe. Can you tell us just like what has changed in the way you manage your newsrooms or you lead your stations? What insights did you get from your experience in America?
Oh, well, I hope I'll be able to quickly summarize this, because if I decide to go into it full scale, I mean, that will be time consuming. So just to summarize it, it was a mind shifting experience for me. We were able to, as I said, we were there from the 22nd of April to the 13th of May, during which we visited. I mean, we were first in DC, so we were exposed to how the government and structure of the United States works. We were taken to the White House, to the Capitol, and some other government agencies. We also had a session at the United States Department of State. It was put together by the Meridian Center. We really thank everybody, the program officers, the chiefs there, basically, from there to San Francisco, California, where we focused more, because that place is the hub for digital technology. Basically, that's where you have X, which as at that time was still known as Twitter, ChatGPT, Google, Meta, all of them. So it was an opportunity for us to see firsthand the beauty of digital innovation. The role was also there that we went to the NPR, so the role of public media for profit models and for profit models, those that are just into community broadcasting. We're also able to visit Phoenix, Arizona from the 2nd to the 4th of May, and Tucson, Arizona. The good thing about those places was that they are places where you have a large number of minorities. So it exposed us to how the United States of America is also managing diversity as a country, as a multi-ethnic country, just like Nigeria. We interfaced, there was a particular station we visited, I'm trying to remember the name. It's actually on the fringes of the border. Maybe before the end of this conversation, I will remember. It was quite beautiful because they appeal to a community that is essentially different. They are minorities. They are almost like an autonomous set of people within the US as a big country. So it was an eye-opening opportunity for us to know that, look, you cannot wash away the differences that exist. The most important thing is to manage and give everybody a sense of belonging. And after that, from May 6th to May 10th, we were in Chicago, Illinois. It's a bubbly place, with a lot of businesses. The highlight there for me was our meeting with the Chicago Press Club, because then we met a lot of colleagues, most of them senior colleagues, and we were able to exchange notes as to how AI, at that point, it was an emerging force, and how it was most likely going to be a game changer in the industry. One of the things that we also took away from there was that somehow the Chicago Press Club was able to bring all the media organizations together to form a force and then condition the government of that city that 50% of their advertising budget should go to Chicago-based media organizations. Because we got to a point where we were discussing sustainability, how many media organizations in the US have also closed down, especially in the wake of COVID. So one of the things they said was that they had to come together as a group to meet with the mayor, and then they were able to come to an agreement that 50% of their advertising spend should be on the media organizations based in that city. And then lastly, from the 10th to the 13th of May, we were in St. Petersburg, Florida, where then it was mainly a TV experience for us. We visited Television Florida. I also must admit that the disparity in terms of budget was a reality check for me. For instance, the handler who took us around was able to establish that even though it's a local TV station, the annual budget was around $12 million. I mean, I couldn't believe that a TV station could be getting that much. I mean, that is more than the state budget for some states in Nigeria, for most of the states in Nigeria, if not all of them. So, and what this means is that it offers the professionals more latitude to be independent in delivering their responsibilities, because at the heart of what we do is independence. So I made friends. So coming back to how it has helped me and my organization, the first thing I would say was that I made friends. I met people. For instance, the 10 of us who were part of that program together, we have remained as a unit since then. There are two of us from Nigeria. We also had two from, let me, just to be sure, I think we have two with 5 male, 5 female, 5 Anglophone, 5 Francophone. We've stayed as friends. In fact, it is quite interesting to let you know that my master's MSc dissertation at the University of Ibadan was assisted by one of the friends I made, because my focus was on the kind of propaganda that the government of Captain Ibrahim Traore does in Burkina Faso. So given that it's a French-speaking country, I needed the help of some of the people we met and became friends during this program. Also,
sorry, sir. Sorry to interrupt you. It's just in the interest of time, because I know we have quite a number of questions that are coming from the students, not only on our topic, but because since we have someone, an expert with over 19 years, so a number of his students who are in media students or who are interested in working in media, they also have some specific media questions. So I also want to open it up. So any students listening in that you're studying something media related or you're interested, you could also raise your hand to ask a question, but we'll just take some few questions in the comments so that we don't run out of time. We can get to the questions. Sorry, sir. I think one major question that people are asking, because they're speaking to young people too. So what has been effective in your experience engaging young people in democratic processes in your experience?
okay, well, I'm a young person myself, so it's very easy for me to relate, but I suppose in this instance, maybe you're also talking about younger people, the one we call Gen Zs right now. I would say it's been quite interesting. To start with, in my organizations, there are about as of today, we have 217 people working here. But every year we take in so many young people as interns, as core members. So they form part of our stakeholders. One major challenge I've seen is that for quite a number of them, they don't see the need to be involved in democratic discussions or governance issues. Maybe because of how the economy is, that they are still so preoccupied with survival, how to get jobs, how to survive. So it looks like a stretch if you try to bring them in and discuss democracy with them. But we have also noticed this gap, and that is why we designed a program called Say It Out Loud. It is anchored by a young person. In fact, what we do is that every 2 years, we change presenters. The moment the presenter outgrows the age of 20, we bring in another person in, because we believe that there's nobody who is better to engage with them than somebody who belongs in that class as well. And the idea is to have meaningful discussions, whether it's about tech or about relationship, about governance as well, to make sure that we don't leave that space. We also, especially leading up to the 2023 election, we devoted a large portion of our broadcast time to encouraging young people, those who just turned 18 at that point in time, to go get their permanent voter cards, because without that, they wouldn't be able to vote. And we were quite happy with the feedback that we got from INEC, that's the election management body in Nigeria, in your states at that point in time, that it was working, because it became the clearinghouse of issues. So people will go there when they have challenges, they will call us And then we'll call INEC back that, okay, you ask these people to come, now they come, they're not getting it. So it was a very robust period for us, and we're quite happy that many of them, in fact, at the risk of sounding political, most of the students who voted in the last election credited us. There was a video that went viral during the election when they were counting votes. And then they were saying LP 71, LP 72, LP 73. It was actually at the University of Ibadan. We were there. And it was where we started our pilot campaign for young people getting involved in the democratic space. I also don't know if you can take credit for this, but the current Oyo State House of Assembly has the highest number of young people in the parliament in any state assembly in Nigeria. There are 5 out of 32 members who, as at the point they were elected, were under 40. And we have 3 of them that were even under 30 as at the point. In fact, the speaker, who is in the second term as speaker, just turned 39 last week. So we believe that our campaign engagement has entrenched the interest of younger people in governance and democracy.
Thank you so much for that. You mentioned those are actually really interesting figures, but you also mentioned something about the campaign to encourage your people to get their voters card. I just want to do a quick room check. So how many people across the room, American Spaces, if you have your PVC, your permanent voters card, can you do a wave for us? Just do a low temperature check. Because we are speaking to young people, right? I can see some videos. Which spaces? Can we see a wave? Did anyone wave? Okay, I'm seeing some hands up. That's good. So because this is more than just a conversation, it's really talking about because these are the young people we're speaking to and speaking about how we can get active and how we can get involved. So it's cool to see the reality on ground too for us. So still speaking about young people, because we can't talk about young people and not talk about social media in the same breath. Another question is that with the rise of social media, of course, we know because you mentioned the video that went viral. I'm sure that triggered a lot of reactions, activity, and all of that. So the rise of social media, can you just speak a bit to the intersection between social media, journalism, and also democracy, and how influential that has become, and how young people can actually utilize it more to turn it into actions and not just conversations or observations, but actual actions?
Okay, thank you very much. It's quite interesting. Up until 2015, we didn't even have a dedicated social media page. We just, a few interested persons would just take pictures and post on their own personal account. But in 2015, I went for a workshop. Not a workshop. It was more like an internship because that was when I became the news editor. So I was in London at the BBC for 1 month. And one of the most important things I brought back was the fact that we now needed at that point to mainstream social media. So on my recommendation, the station set up an entire social media unit, which as of this moment is now populated by 7 persons. That is minus those interns and core members who assist them. So one of the things we have discovered is that if you want to become if you don't want to become a yesterday organization, you really have to go digital. So not some, all of our programs are live streamed. So it's almost like a convergence between audio and visual, and they are live streamed not only on Facebook. You have real-time updates on Instagram, on TikTok. In fact, our station, Nagilu FM, which is the indigenous side of our media network is the most followed radio station on TikTok in the whole of Southwest Nigeria as we speak. So we post a lot of short videos there to engage the mind. We also have an academy where we teach, we do media training. So we have seen that digital media is the way. That is not to not acknowledge the dangers around it. Fake news is one. But we have also had to update ourselves because digital media has come to stay. And it is not the problem, it is the usage. So it is, for instance, recently, a big politician in Oyo State, I'll say,
I think his network is acting up again. Hello. So while that is, we're fixing the technical issue. I'm just turning back to Madam Josephine. We'll sort that out. Madam Josephine, are you there? You're muted if you're speaking.
I'm here. I guess we are really running out of time. We have just about 9 minutes to end the show. While we are waiting for Mr. Olawunwo's network to be fixed, we have some questions. Can you hear us?
who is now one of the opposition.
Okay. So we have Shekina, you might be able to help with this. We have question from Calabar, which is similar to the one that they are asking in American Center. It's talking about, in view of his experience as a media personnel and an IVLP, in what ways do you think the media can provide accurate and unbiased information, especially during election? Mr. Olawunwo, are you still with us?
I'm here.
Okay, so because of time, we are really running out of time. We want to see if we can take like 2 more questions before we round off the program. We
Yeah, I
have
think
2
we can do
questions
1
that are
minute per
similar.
question. Should be able to do it. Yeah.
Is this still with us?
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, okay. So someone is asking from Lagos and Calabar that in what ways, in view of your experience as a media personnel and an IVLP, in what ways do you think the media can provide accurate and unbiased information, especially during election, that does not undermine freedom of expression, especially during elections? Similar question.
Okay, I think that it starts with ownership. To be very
Okay.
honest, the vision flows from ownership. If the ownership is independent, then the job is a lot easier with the people that are going to be working. I recall that there was an election done in Ekiti some years ago. Some of my friends experienced this, and they work. It's a state-owned broadcast organization, and during the election, the governor of the state, then former governor Fauci, kept calling into their programs, the situation room, literally announcing election results by himself. Now, that was against the law because that was the job of INEC. But they couldn't do anything about it. They just sat there and watched. Of course, the regulatory body NBC shut down the station for 6 months after that. So that's just to tell you what ownership can do. So ownership for me is key. Number two is the vision that is guiding the organization. What do you stand for? And for me, one of the things that must quickly be identified at the starting point is how do you intend to sustain the organization? Where do you think your money will come from? In our own case, we have always been clear that for as long as we remain solid in terms of being the people's choice, advertisers will come. Advertisers don't demand anything else of you beyond just doing your own part of the deal. But the moment you have to rely on politicians or government, you're certainly going to be compromised. I'm sorry, there is no other way. They will compromise you. So then, lastly, it comes down to the individual. What do you think of yourself as a journalist? Do you see yourself as a professional who is, many people have argued what we do, is it a profession or a vocation? Well, I say it's both because it's non-linear. You can be a broadcaster without having studied mass communication or anything. I mean, you can study animal science and still be a broadcaster. So, but in that sense, some will argue it's a vocation, but it's also a profession. How do you want to be seen, perceived, and respected? If you're there for the taking, well, it's up to you.
Thank you very much. I think this is a very critical question that I would like you to answer because it's related to some of our young audience in the room this morning. It says, what is the most valuable advice you can give someone who is about to go into the media space? What are the things you know now that you wish you knew earlier? And that would be the final question.
Okay, so let me answer this way because it's the question I get the most from young people who are trying to come into the industry. Ask, is there money in media? My answer is yes and no. No, because in terms of maybe what you're paid in Nigeria, and I'm speaking for Nigeria here, it's not the same as what they pay in tech or what they pay in the oil industry or even in banks and some other places. However, the leverage and the respect you earn being a good journalist is more than enough for you to be successful and accomplished in life. So that is one. Number two is that if you're just starting, it's best that you have a niche. A lot of us started just wanting to be broadcasters. You know, some just wanted to be presenter. So today you're doing entertainment, tomorrow you're in sports, thereafter you're doing lifestyle. It will serve you well if you already understand your strength from the beginning and you venture into it. I will also advise that you quickly take up a course that resonates beyond just the little time you have on air. Because at most, maybe 30 minutes, 1 hour. What are the things? And that's one of the reasons why I appreciate the US mission in Nigeria and all they do. You know, it could be environment, it could be gender issue, it could be community issues. Pick up something that you can use the popularity and the fame that media is giving you to drive, as opposed to just being that person who speaks on radio for 30 minutes or what, and then you go. It will really make you stand out among the crowd.
Thank you very much, Mr. Babatunde Olawunwo. It's a great pleasure to have you this morning, and we are very glad for your commitment even to the development of media in Nigeria and to young people. Thank you for all you do, even for democracy in Nigeria. Please let's give facilitator a round of applause this morning for such an engaging and educative session. So thank you also. I want to thank my colleague too, Shekaina Olagunju. Thank you so much for your coordination and for your time. A round of applause even for Shekaina too. So I
Thank
also want to
you.
thank all our participants in our American Spaces this morning. Special thanks to our directors for the great work that you are doing. On Monday, we have a mind-blowing session on our employability webinar, talking about what Mr. Olawunwo just said. We have various programs that can empower you and move you forward in your career, in your profession. So this Monday, we are looking at personal branding as a tool for success. So I would like you to invite your friends. We have an expert that has been prepared and is ready even to deliver this session. Till we meet on Monday, 10 a.m., I would like to say have a great weekend and have a lovely day. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, ma'am.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you, Ms.